As you may know from one of my earlier videos, I got married last year. I married a girl from Sibu, Sarawak, and the best perk about marrying a Sarawakian is that now I get to visit Sarawak all the time. Earlier this month, we traveled back to Sibu for a week to visit Leong Fang's family. For this trip, we brought along the Lumix S5II and the Lumix GX9. The lenses we packed were the 20-60mm kit lens and the 50mm f1.8 for the S5II and the 12-32mm kit lens and the 42.5mm prime for the GX9. So full frame and micro four thirds. But in the end, we only used the kit lenses on these cameras, and the primes, they just stayed in the back. I actually bought the GX9 for my mom as a gift since she's a frequent traveler and she wanted a small, compact, lightweight, yet capable camera for her travels. I found this GX9 with the 12-32mm kit lens used for about 1,500 ringgit, and it had about 40,000 shutter actuations. I think it's a steal. Then for this trip to Sibu, I actually borrowed it for my mom because we also wanted something smaller and lightweight and compact to complement the larger and bulkier Lumix S5II, and we are glad we did. You see, Sibu is a town in the middle of Sarawak. The people there aren't used to seeing cameras out on the streets. And as such, the S5II, being a bigger camera, it drew a lot of unwanted attention. In contrast, the GX9, with its tiny kit lens, and when I say tiny, I really mean tiny. It's so small that if you didn't pay any attention, you might even mistake it for a phone. And just for comparison, I have my phone here, and this is how the GX9, look how tiny it is. My phone is actually larger than the GX9. This is one of the more underappreciated advantages of micro four thirds system, and I really hope Panasonic and OM System can continue making small, compact, lightweight micro four thirds cameras. During our week in Sibu, the weather was incredibly hot and humid, but that also meant no rain, and we had amazing lighting conditions. Thanks to the clear skies, we were able to capture a beautiful sunset over the Rajang River at the Sibu Wharf, right beside the Tua Pek Kong Chinese temple in town center. It was breathtaking. We also visited the Sibu Central Market, where the locals buy their groceries. Since it was a Sunday, the market was really crowded. This is where the limitations of the GX9 became apparent. The 12 to 32mm kit lens has an aperture of f3.5 to 5.6. Together with the smaller micro four thirds sensor, the low light performance isn't great, just wasn't great. The S5II, on the other hand, handled low light without the H, even with the same 3.5 to 5.6 because of the larger full frame sensor. But despite the limitations of the GX9, I still had a ton of fun shooting with this camera. I think the biggest takeaway from using these two cameras on this trip is that compactness and portability are really underappreciated. Full frame gear does offer better image quality. You get better dynamic range, you get better low light performance, and you can achieve a shallower depth of field. But it is often bigger and bulkier, and they're just not very subtle, especially when you're out on the streets trying to do street photography. It draws a lot of attention, and sometimes I feel that it can spoil a good photo, all because the subject noticed you holding a large camera with a large lens and they start to freak out. This happens far less often with the micro four thirds cameras and lenses. But I think more and more people are starting to recognize the appeal and importance of compactness and portability. And these people are even willing to sacrifice some of the image quality to achieve this compact form factor. This is why cameras like the Sony A7C series, the Fuji X100 series, and more recently the Leica Deluxe 8 all sold like hotcakes, despite their very obvious compromises on the spec sheets. Even the Lumix G100, which a lot of people hated, actually did quite well in the sales because a lot of people just really dig the small, compact form factor. This camera and lens are going back to my mom very soon, and I think I'm gonna miss it a lot. Who knows, maybe I'll buy one for myself in the future. Maybe I'll grab a G100, maybe a G100 Mark II when it comes out. And Panasonic, if you're making a successor to the GX9, I think it's gonna sell like crazy if you do it right and you price it right. I know I haven't talked much about the S5II in this video, but that's because I'm actually working on another video dedicated entirely to the S5II. So subscribe if you want to get notified when that video goes live, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.